So, just a few words to beginning. Good? Excellent. Конечно. Спасибо большое. So, I'm delighted to be back. I was here a year ago at the forum, and I think it's obviously in this very exciting building today. It looks very promising. And you'll be hearing from, as I say, a very good group of people, all ready to talk on this panel. I would just say that, you know, we are all here, all of us, Russian, Chinese, American, Swedish, Finnish, committed to international exchange and international education. And I'm not going to say anything political at this point, except to say that this is a wonderful event. And all of us, I think, are committed to innovation and exchange, and we hope that we get over whatever political difficulties we may be facing at the moment and continue in the kind of positive atmosphere that this forum, thank you all of us, is promoting. And I know that that's why we are all here today. Well, we're looking at continuing education. And everybody here has got some good things to say about continuing education. You know what that means, right? That's lifelong learning. That means that in today's highly competitive environment, with the accelerating, constantly accelerating technical progress, all of us from 5 years old to 60 years old and beyond have to be continually up to date with technical developments, understanding the challenging, accelerating technological developments in science, technology, and knowledge, so that we keep up and compete, whether it's ourselves, our children, our parents, in today's competitive landscape. Now, online resources, and we have here experts in online in every way, obviously make a huge difference here, because they level the playing field, and they give us all an opportunity to compete and be up to date in educational requirements. There are some arguments, as you know, today between the advantages and disadvantages of online and what we call bricks and mortar. And I know that we will be discussing that together. And all of you have your own views about that. But it's true that whatever we bring in terms of online and continuous lifelong learning requires new regulation, new approaches, new protocols. And many people here, from companies like Samsung to venture capitalists to people with their own university entrepreneurship programs, have got some great examples to tell us about this. So we're going to look at the challenges that are created in forging this new global educational community. We're going to think about some examples of successful online programs, continuing education. We're going to think the obvious question, what we say in the US, the ROI, the return on investment. How do we help generate employment, skills, jobs, frankly, for ourselves and all of you in this challenging environment today? What are the online programs? What are all these innovations going to do today that will help us, give us the professional qualifications and compete in the global environment? What about partnerships? Many different partnerships between not-for-profit, for-profit, government, etc. The technical challenges, student achievement, and all the overall framework of digital education. Because we don't have a great deal of time today, so I will stop now because you have some great experts here. Everybody's going to present some thoughts and challenges with a few case studies for 5 minutes or so, and then we will come to some discussion from all of you. And we only have an hour for the whole thing. So obviously enough from me. And let me move straight in. We've moved around a little bit, but we will be talking to everybody. So if it's okay with you, Natalia, I'm going to begin with you. So we have here Natalia, and forgive my pronunciation, but Tsarevskaya Diakina. And you have been a great mentor. You seem too young really to be a mentor, but anyway, a mentor to many startups in innovation. Tell us about your advice on mentoring projects in the educational space. And the crucial question, because this has really been your expertise in financing startups, we had a little talk about the venture capital requirements and how you see about investment in EdTech. So Natalia, the floor is yours.
Доброе утро.
Good morning. I will speak Russian today. So I represent a venture foundation which is called Synergy Innovation, affiliated with one of the major private universities and promotes commercial education with about 35 students. So we are experts in commercialization of education. So we are absolutely earn all our money commercially. So creating the venture fund was a logical step on the one hand and very interesting on the other hand. So I came from business English. And business angel. This was my experience, but for half a year I've been managing director of a venture foundation. So concerning managing and advisor process of startup, let me bring about some figures. So an analytics of TechCrunch. So for half a year in the USA, the investment to educational program were about $500 million, and in accordance with the Russian data, for about 2 years, about 25 startups have been invested and funded, not more than $6 million for the whole Russia's economy. So these are the figures. So they say technological market is just in the process of development, but I won't agree with that. This is just a very, very start. We are at the zero mark. So I think that the education will be 100% commercial. And this is the reality which we're going to face in the very near future. And this I see as a normal trend, because education is a service. So we have a lot of startups in education and technologies. And these institutions see education as a business which can be solved and which can be commercial, and this I assume quite normal. So I would subdivide these startups into 2 categories. The first being created by those people who have great experience in education, parents who are not satisfied with the educational program their children are undergoing at the moment. So the parents of children rather prefer to help the technologies. They do not want the education to be 100% commercial. So I belong to the other group of people who see education purely as business. So these are individual approach program. So a lot of platforms and projects which are becoming more and more popular. So this is where we invest, and we include this kind of startups in our holding. We help them to do marketing. This is a dividend model.
It's very interesting. Sorry. I don't think I caused that noise, but anyway. No, I just wanted to tell people who were wondering about the interpretation, like you, Kelsey, it's channel 2 for English on this, channel 2. And is there some strange background noise from us? How's it going? Okay, she's changing.
So channel 1 is Russian and channel 2 is Russian interpretation.
And financial investment in this sector. And I do want to come back to you, and I didn't mean to interrupt you really. I was trying to give a message about interpretation. But let's come back to you in a moment, and that's fascinating what you do there. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry about the background noise, but there's a lot of noise outside. Peter, coming to you. So, does everybody know what Peter Westerbacher invented here? It's a program that has caused us all, or many of you and your children, to waste hundreds of... No, not waste.
Not
invest,
waste, yeah, come on.
Invest hundreds and thousands of hours in the Angry Birds program. I was trying to be provocative for you, Peter.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a physics game, so you know what. Yeah.
No, but you've done great. So, Peter, obviously, you know, the connection between gaming, communication, learning from play, education, digitization of education, you have a hell of a lot to tell us about in this sphere. So, and Peter's originally from Finland, but obviously an international figure. So over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So, yeah, most of you probably know Angry Birds, the game, but at Rovio we do a lot of other things besides kind of like the games. And if you look at Angry Birds, we're now at 2.5 billion downloads. So it's the most distributed piece of entertainment content pretty much ever, which means that the brand is known by 9 out of 10 Americans, 93% of the Chinese population, and I would guess that we are at a similar level of kind of like brand awareness here in Russia as well. And actually what we started doing 4 years ago, very early kind of like in the Angry Birds story, because Angry Birds been around for just over 4 years. Actually, we're celebrating our 5th birthday, as we call it, in December this year. But yeah, so almost 4 years ago we started looking at education, and one of the reasons there is that realized that our characters really engage people, and when you have engagement, then you know, that's a pretty good start for making learning happen as well. And we actually brought on board some people from kind of like the education business and the education side, so kind of like from publishing and all of that. And we actually started developing our own fun learning method and fun learning philosophy. So what we've set out to do is we want to transform education globally, and we want to make all learning fun. So we figured that, okay, if we can get 2.5 billion games out there, how difficult can it be to, you know, transform education globally? And you know, we're of course very early days when you look at that, but we just opened our first classrooms in Shanghai. We're going to do that in Chengdu, Beijing very soon. So we started training the first teachers in China, kind of like end of last year. But some of you might know that there are 15 million teachers in China, and our goal is to train all of them. So it's going to take us a few years, but again, train them on like the fun learning method. And we work on that together with our university partners. So again, being based in Finland and in Helsinki, we started working with the University of Helsinki. We're now also working with the Beijing Normal University. We work with the Federal University in Rio, MIT, you know, just to name a few. And yeah, maybe kind of like a bit on like what we mean by fun learning. And I always use like an example from back home in Finland. So in Finland, boys speak better English than girls. And do you know why? Because they play more games, and the games are in English. So they are learning while they're having fun. So it's not like the boys, you know, set out to speak better English, but they play more games. The games are in English, so they end up with, you know, like bigger vocabulary and basically better English skills. So we want to make all learning fun like that. And all of you have played Angry Birds. what you've actually learned by playing that game is trajectories and things like that. If you played Angry Birds Space, you learned about gravity wells, and we are actually working with people like NASA, National Geographic, CERN, and together with the guys from CERN, we're actually going to teach 8-year-old kids quantum physics, just because we can. So, you can stay tuned for more in that area. But yeah, our goal is to make learning fun everywhere, and we're only getting started, so there's still a lot of work to do, but take our fun learning very seriously. Thanks.
That's fascinating. I'm sure that you would all have a lot of questions for Peter. Peter, perhaps if they played more Minecraft, your Swedish rival, as opposed to Call of Duty, then the girls would be as much as the boys on the gaming. So.
Yeah, but they all play a fair amount of that, so Minecraft is a great educational game, obviously, as well.
Excellent, that's very interesting. I mean, how to make learning fun, I'm sure that we would definitely want to know more from your experience there. Did you want to show this little video, or is it, yeah, is it ready? Okay, I guess we can take, it's just 2 or 3 minutes, right? Right, guys? So from Peter's...
Angry Birds Playground is a fantastic way to combine the Finnish educational expertise with the local needs and with the local expertise. So you make Angry Birds Playground yours in your own territory by bringing what's really important to you and what you cherish in your culture. And we bring the platform of Finnish education into the equation. We think that we're very good in the early childhood educational sphere, especially. We believe that children should be allowed to play freely. They need to have an environment where that is cherished. The classroom is built to be a creative and innovative environment. We don't want the children to be doing the same thing at the same time because we are all so different. We need to be able to make choices during our learning and during our day. So this environment is planned to cater for these needs of each individual and also for the entire classroom. We're very focused on teacher training. The teachers have a huge impact. All the Angry Birds Playground teachers are taught to take care of each and every child in the best possible way to make sure that these individuals grow into global citizenship. We believe in education, we believe in schools, we believe in teaching. But the way teachers teach in the future is changing. What we want to focus on is using technology creatively and helping children understand how they can be active players and active citizens also in the future. So technology as a creative tool, not just as passive watching. I want to say a few words about fun learning, which is very important for us. We studied fun learning and tried to understand what is necessary for learning to be fun and effective. And we found 7 statements that we believe should be true for learning to be fun. Learning is fun when you can choose how you learn. And learning is definitely fun when it's fun to fail, or at least it's okay to make mistakes. We don't know what challenges these children will be facing in the future, but we need to be able to give them a set of skills that will help them through life. Angry Birds Playground is definitely a way to start your life with something totally unique.
Thank you. So learning can be fun. I think we'd like to know, maybe when we come back to you, about how this then continues when you're beyond that sort of early childhood age that we saw in this video. But I mean, that was really fascinating. Thank you. Kelsey, over to you. So we have here someone from the heart of San Francisco high-tech Silicon Valley world. Kelsey Whelan over there. And Kelsey works for Draper University. And you're going to talk to us about the way you've put the entrepreneurial programs online. I think one thing we'd also like to know, Kelsey, is the advantages, of course, of everything that online brings, but are there some disadvantages? And do you need to balance online with bricks and mortar as well? But over to you. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. I'm Kelsey. I'm the director of the online program of Draper University. It's an entrepreneurship program based in Silicon Valley. It's founded by a venture capitalist named Tim Draper. He founded DFJ, which is a venture firm which has invested in Skype and Hotmail and a lot of other big tech companies. He also founded BizWorld, which is a nonprofit geared to teach children about business. And more recently, he started Draper University. And it started as a residential program in Silicon Valley in San Mateo. And students come from all around the world, and they stay in this hotel for 7 weeks, and they learn about entrepreneurship. And similarly to what Peter was saying about Rovio, he believes that nothing incredible has been done without having a little fun. And so the program, for him, he felt like he didn't fit into the traditional education format, even though he went to Stanford and then Harvard Business School. He always felt like he didn't fit in very well. And he believes that learning should be experiential, and you should be able to make mistakes and not be... he felt like grades weren't a good way to judge people's ability. And a lot of people learn best by trying and failing, which isn't rewarded in the current system. And so he created this program to teach entrepreneurs, or to teach entrepreneurship. A lot of people say entrepreneurship can't be taught, but he's built this whole university around teaching people how to learn from failing and trying new things. And it's a 7-week program which culminates with the opportunity to pitch to venture capitalists, and it's been a very interesting experience. It's sort of like a pre-accelerator program. The idea is you come in with a business idea and you do all of this experiential learning, and at the end you pitch to venture capitalists. And so it's been very successful and fun so far, and I came on a year ago to build the online version of it. So I'm an engineer, and he said, I want to take this experiential program and put it online. And I went and looked at all the education platforms that were out there, and if you're familiar with Udemy and Coursera and the big MOOCs that are out there, they're pretty much watching video lectures and taking tests, for the most part. And so I was looking to potentially use one of these platforms to launch our online program, but realized it just didn't fit with the way that he wanted to teach, which was have fun, try things, and especially work in a community. So he wanted there to be this element of community, and you're working with other people, because ultimately you need to learn how to do that to be a successful entrepreneur. And so I decided I would build something instead. And so I built a platform for our online school. Did the first version in a couple months in Ruby on Rails. And so if you don't know, the average completion rate for MOOCs is about 7%, which is, or the last time I checked at least, it's under 10%, which is incredibly low. It's kind of misleading though, because a lot of people start classes without the intent of finishing it anyway. But still, nonetheless, that's a very low number. And we try to focus on two big things. One is to make it social. So looking at the other programs, if you take a class on Udemy, it's quite boring and you feel like you're taking it alone. So we wanted to make it feel like you're taking this class with other people, and try to get you to get to know your classmates. And then two, gamify it a little bit and make it fun. And so one of the interesting things that we found is that we had a few different types of assignments. We had the lectures, we had the quizzes, and we had reading assignments. But then we also had these crazy assignments, like there's this oath that we have at our school. It's probably 20 lines. And in the first week of the course, we said, memorize this oath, blindfold yourself, take a video of yourself reciting it blindfolded. And we thought no one would do that because that's kind of a ridiculous thing to ask people. But in fact, the assignments that we gave that were like that were actually had higher completion rates. So we had a series of activities that were very high friction. We told them, go out in the world and make a Rube Goldberg machine, trying to teach them to be creative and resourceful with these kind of restrictions that we gave them. And those were the activities that had the highest completion rates, even more so than the lectures, where in our first iterations of the platform, all you had to do is click on the video and it marked it as complete. Eventually now we have you watch most of the video and we're a little bit more robust features, but we thought that was fascinating, that people want to be engaged physically. We have survival at the residential program, and so we said download the Nike running app and go run 6 miles and take a video and a screenshot that shows that you ran 6 miles, and people did that. Our completion rate was 83% for those activities. And overall, the completion rate for the entire program is 50%. So we're still very small, and we have a long ways to go, and we keep iterating. Every quarter we have new features for what we've built, but we've learned some very interesting things about what compels people to finish programs online. So, yeah.
Thank you, that's great, that's fascinating. A lot of similarities with what Peter was saying and what Kelsey's been saying about learning as fun, as engaging. I think your point, Kelsey, about getting over the lonely factor of online education, because of course online can seem impersonal and you're not working with other people. You don't get that community factor, and the way that you've tried to overcome that, I think is really very, very innovative. When we come back to that, how's the interpretation? Вы понимаете? Is it okay по-русски? Yeah? Good, excellent. All right, thank you very much. So over to you, Leonid. And Leonid is truly international. English, Russian, Swedish connections. And I think you're also going to talk to us especially about mobile technology and your experiences in that sector for education. So thanks, Leonid.
Yeah. I will try to speak Russian because many people know this language here. And it's always difficult for me to choose between English and Russian because you never know which degree of local and global communication you need to choose. Ну, теперь я переведу, собственно, на русский.
Now I will try to translate what I said in English. This is the time when we can choose what kind of market we are developing our products. I have a typical problem. This is the problem of a young father. Each morning, coming to wake up my young son, 2.5 years, he is crying and asking for iPad. And I understand that his future is connected closely to the communication means. On one hand, I want to believe he wants to communicate with me as a father, but on the other hand, the electronic devices take his time. And I was quite delighted the video by Peter, because I want to show to my son these interactive educational platforms, but I don't want him to spend thousands of human hours for different games, including Angry Birds. But I cannot avoid that he will do this. And this is a dilemma I want to discuss with you. Quite soon we will have technological possibilities to determine the possibilities of a person, his interests, his necessities with different electronic devices. And I discussed this with AirMade company and Zelin.net, webinar.ru, etc. And if we don't have friendly relations yet, it means that we have open spaces in my list. But mobile devices is the entrance point into the conscience of our students, of our children, and this is a great opportunity that I'm observing now. I have 2 phones in my pocket, but I understand that we have advantage compared with the other world, which is just in few kilometers from here, behind the Moscow Circular Railroad road. And I want very much to make closer the future for other people. And William Gibson said that we have uneven future. Somebody already lives in the 21st century. He has an LTE, he has Skype, and other communication methods with his partners who live in Sweden, like my partners. And this is a great technological advantage we've been using for the 4 years. But some people live in very underdeveloped countries, and we have a potential to educate a very super educated doctor or professional, but the problem is that they don't have this opportunity. Last year there was a report from Peter Diamandis, a presentation, and he was speaking about his X-Prize experiences in his company X-Prize. And quite recently Peter gave a new initiative they launched this year. This will be finished in 2019. I hope this will be finished even earlier. But the main idea of this project is to pay $15 million to a team of mobile developers who will create a universal solution to teach children without participation of teachers using mobile devices. It's a very interesting project. You can see the phases of the project at the slide, and you can see details, because this is a big challenge for me as a teacher, as a professor, because some people want me to retire at my age of 37, and I do not agree with this. And on the other hand, I understand that this is a new technology which will allow it to change the world. Some time ago, I told my students when my mother was fired from the publishing house, because this was a new world already, and the publishers did not need these positions. I understand that this was a big problem for our family, but I understand that the world will be making the choice between the global opportunities and the global losses. And a big question for me is who will win in this situation? The people who speak English, the children who speak English in Finland, or Chinese children who are learning English, or the Spanish children who are learning English. And this is a dilemma who makes me think where to apply my efforts. And I think that the barriers which are created at the borderlines will be destroyed, including through our online educational projects. Because I don't have problems entering the Coursera platform and learning the new opportunities that I can implement in Russia. At the same time, Chinese entrepreneurs can start to compete with us at our territory and understand that the prices that they will be proposing will be a big opportunity. The question is what language we'll be speaking in 30 or 40 years. Of course, my choice is Russian, but I understand that globally we will be speaking English, and also I understand that it is necessary to learn Chinese, because I understand what China territory is, and creating a platform when a child can sit and learn a new language without participation of a teacher. This is what inspires me, and I understand this is what I want to achieve in the near future. On the other hand, seeing the walls that put together our community will be with us until the new generation comes.
Нам вопросы. Зачем нам нужны эти стены? Куда нам двигаться? В настоящий момент те простые устройства, которые сейчас могут быть носимыми, наушники, мобильное устройство, стоят достаточно дорого. Это порядка $800, но очень скоро...
There are a lot of mobile devices, but we'll very soon see people's smartphones, so-called cheap device. So I hope that our partners will show how educational process can be more democratic. So in Russian, there is no such a parameter as backhand, but that will be a new Google or Yandex, so new machinery, which we're going to use in any kind of devices, telephones or any new variant of the device which already exists or any absolutely new one. So just imagine in the morning you wake up and you find yourself in the Spike Jones world with the technologies around you. So together with the British School of Technology and Design, we create new technologies, but several years later there will be new technologies, but Samsung S Voice, but Siri, and they will change the manner of our conversation. So you will see a lot of people in headphones communicating globally because there will be no borders more. So global education is the most important thing for me now. So I think that this is the evolution we're going to face in the coming 10, 15 years. That will be great years, but we'll get freedom and mobility that will change our world. And so I hope that we will understand these devices window to any country. So this is kind of a bridge we're going to carry in our pocket and using it every day. So for 3 years, anytime car has been working in Moscow, this is the project when you can open the car and use it with a mobile device, and 2 minutes later you stop thinking you are the owner of it. You stop thinking it is a device. You just use it. So talent is another important thing, and we'll face the situation when creative resources and creation will be spread around. So all the participants of the panel discussion, all you make your own steps to this future. So if you have ideas of your own, plans of your own, please come to us. Let us share our ideas and create this mobile future together. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I think that,
mobile technology focus at the end, everything being mobile. I'm not entirely happy about your notion that we aim for education without the participation of teachers, but it's very provocative. And I think it's certainly something we might come back to if we've got time. Thank you very much indeed. Yakov from Rostelecom. I wanted to ask you just to tell us a little bit, as we're moving a little bit fast here, about your projects around e-school learning. So thank you very much.
Да, спасибо. Как вы сказали, я работаю в компании Ростелеком.
You said I work for Rostelecom company, which is the biggest IT company, like TNT in British Telecom in Europe. We do a lot for education. And the most important service we do is access to the internet. So we have more than 35,000 schools which have access to the internet through us. So we develop other services for schools, mostly content services. The first project of ours was in the year 2011 when we created the system for automatizing education, the e-journal and other statistic data which ministries and other educational institutions as well as project use. So platform for digital content and digital manuals is the project I'm developing today, and would like to go into more detail. So today what we see is the trend that children want iPad and they want to use it. They start playing games, they start being trained through these devices and gadgets, but they would use them everywhere, including schools. So today, schools have started to use not only paper but digital manuals. Though the majority of teachers are opponents of it, so they say it is not very convenient to them. Some of them cannot use this kind of devices. Speaking about school children, they say that they want to use them, and so the Ministry of Education make very good initiatives, and they start motivating the normal book publishers to transform their manuals into digital content. So I don't know how it is being conducted internationally, but in Russia there are some manuals registered, and so these are the only books and manuals which are to be used at schools. So now the target is to create not just manuals but digital interactive content, and Rostelecom creates a platform to deliver different kind of interactive digital content to schools, and this platform should be integrated with the educational process, with other informational and other technologies, enabling new possibilities, new opportunities for integration of home task and classwork, when the teacher can just show a reference which a school by a school girl can be used. So going to this reference, then perform a test, for instance, as the data is transformed to some contest, to some platform, and the teacher can use it. So we are the company which makes a platform like this. So that's about all I want to say.
Fascinating. Linking home and classroom, and it's very encouraging that Rostelecom, as the big company, does this, and we'll come back to that. And so, if you like, I think there's a very good connection to our next speaker from Samsung. I have to do PR for you, as I have a nice Samsung phone, of course. So, Sergey, obviously representing this high-tech company, you also have a lot of work in terms of IT schools, e-learning, probably quite similar to what our friends at Rostelecom are doing. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that from Samsung's perspective?
Yes, I will. And first of all, I do appreciate your choice for the mobile phone. Добрый день, меня зовут Сергей Певнев.
Good afternoon, my name is Sergey Pivnev, Samsung company, one of the international leaders in IT and mobile cell technologies. So we use our experience and our technologies for the social programs in Russia. So Education for All is a program for children with disabilities who have to stay at home. So IT, e-technologies is the only opportunity for them for being socialized, being involved in the society and getting education. IT School Samsung is our second program, where high school school children are being trained on the basis of our technologies, Smart School Samsung. So ICD experience shows that this increases the school children's motivation up to 20%. So our program, IT School Samsung, on programming, IT, as well as practical skills we train for applications for smartphones and devices. So it is used in 24 regions. So without webinars, without online testing, we couldn't have met the same quality, the same standards, and the same programs. So this actually, there is a lot. This kind of education is in demand. So six in regions and 15 in Moscow. School children for one place is the competitive just effect today. So thank you for your attention.
I thought it was absolutely fascinating that you began with the disability focus, because of course there are certain places, as you say, for some children where there is no choice. So connectivity through mobile and IT is obviously a magnificent contribution there. So thank you very much for that. Alexander, we're going to ask you to come up and speak over here, if you don't mind, just for a couple of minutes. I know that your background in particular, you've focused on some areas that I found very intriguing, because you talk about story playing. Fascinating how we keep coming back to this playing, learning as fun, learning as play throughout this discussion, story dwelling, virtual learning, and I'm sure there'll be lots of connections to what people have said before. So Alexander Laszlo, please come and talk to us for, I'm afraid, just 3 or 4 minutes, if you wouldn't mind.
Yep, good. Hello. Здравствуйте. Меня зовут Sasha.
My name is Alexander. Hello.
A few comments and observations, if you permit me. And before I begin, thank you so much, Michael, for inviting me up here to just share some perspectives on the panel and the comments that we have been making so far. Before we go, I would just like to show, if we can, our appreciation for the wonderful and innovative presentations that we've had from the panel here. So please, a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much. Some terminology I would like us to think about. The difference between edutainment and the gamification of education. So we've talked a little bit about some things that are more in the lines of edutainment, which is simply the presentation of material that is both entertaining and at the same time has an educational component to it. But the gamification of education is a process that is involving a design component where there's an intention to be able to make learning fun, to make learning educational. And this is the kind of thing I think that you've seen very well on the panel today. Now, the difference in what Michael was mentioning here in moving from the classical educational frame, which is about storytelling. The professor comes, tells a story about physics, about history, about chemistry, and the student then takes notes. And then either in an exam or in a final paper, they repeat the story that they heard. And if they can repeat it with high fidelity, they get a good grade. But this is what Howard Gardner said is the best process for passing the notes of the instructor to the notes of the student and leaving the student's mind untouched. But what we have through the gamification of education is an engagement, a living engagement that is interesting and that is fun. Learning should be fun. Now, when you move from storytelling to story playing, you come into playscapes. There are games that you can play. You can play interactive landscapes that have been designed for you, whether it is the Model UN or Buckminster Fuller's World Game or other things of that sort. But you're still playing on somebody else's landscape. So the final challenge for this kind of technology is to move from storytelling to story playing to story dwelling, where the educational content is delivered in such a way that it engages your life world, the things that matter to you, where you live, and with the challenges that face you in your particular life circumstances. This is the power of the kind of technology that we see today in the kind of presentations that you heard. But I would like to mention one final aspect here. There is a dark side. There is a challenge to this kind of technology. It's not just about the fun and the engagement. It can connect us very meaningfully to each other, to information, can connect us as well to our world, but it can also disconnect us. That is a serious risk of this kind of technology. So the way in which it is designed is important. There is a phenomenon, you know what it is to socialize. People say we'll come together and we spend some time together and we interact. Now there is a new sociological term called to nocialize. Not socialize, but nocialize. And people will come together and they will bring their device and they will spend the time together interacting on their device but not talking to each other, not even looking at each other. And there's this whole aspect of what's called the zombification of the coming generation. So how do we get people to interact and to stay connected, not just through a mediated forum, but also in direct interaction with the real world? Finally, the new generations are born into a digital world. They are born into and with a kind of a hardwired receptivity for engaging with this technology. It doesn't involve the same kind of learning curve that many of us who are coming into using new technology have to face. So to work with their mindset, their heart set, their engagement, it is a native tongue to them to work with this kind of technology. It is up to us as the designers and the presenters of these kind of technology in educational formats to make sure it connects people with life. Thank you so much.
Fascinating. Well done. Excellent. Some great terms there. Story dwelling, huh? Versus the zombification. I mean, really fascinating concepts. We've got that. Great contribution. Would you? I was just wondering whether Pavel, if you have a moment to speak to us. So Pavel from Skolkovo Management School, would you like to go up and just give us a couple of words on how you see the future of this area, if that's possible, in 2 or 3 minutes?
Hello. Я буду говорить по-русски.
Going to speak Russian. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thank you for inviting me here. My name is Pavel Luksha. And thank you for an overview, what we are waiting for, what we are in for in the very, very near future and in the coming 10 years. This is a very intense structure developing all the time, and which will involve the advances of the leading international companies, and it will be much more involving than the so-called traditional education, brick education. And here, the role of mobile devices can hardly be underestimated. So, IBM company has started the pilot project IBM Watson this year as for testing this kind of an educational tutor. So these are alternative online platforms for systemic online training. So as Leonid said, we, our company, trying to live in the future where on-life intensive education is part of our environment. So we start asking ourselves what the teachers, the life teachers, are going to do in this world.
And it became clear that in this new world it is necessary to learn all the time, and the living education must be involved in collective development. It must be involving, it must be creative, and must be common research and not just the teaching of others. And any kind of organization of collective creative activities will be the platform for the future online continuous education. And we've been doing with my colleagues a Foresight Float project. This is one of the biggest projects in the world to teach the thinking about the future when we take the students to a comfort environment on a ship, and 24 hours they are submerged into the educational program. They are creating the maps of the future, they agree on the introduction, and they live through this new scenarios in the form of a game. And this extra, very intensive time, these people simply do not sleep, but they don't drink, as it is normal on a ship's tour. And this is several hundred people who are involved in a very interesting project. I think that this format is one of the types of the future education. And I think another point I want to develop on, I'm very delighted and I very respect those people who have been speaking on this panel. But we also need a kind of systemic approach on the development of the education, which must be developed a non-stop regime, 24 hours. And to this point, I want to mention that just yesterday, international initiative was launched, Global Foresight Education. 25 experts, international experts from all over the world. This is a consulting council of this. They launched this project, and we plan during the next year in California, Brazil, and Singapore to discuss the future of the education and the model which can accompany the long life education. And I invite all interested people to follow this project and to join it in its development.
So please contact Pavel directly afterwards to follow up on this, what you call systemic approach. That's really excellent. Although I like the idea of the cruise ship too, remembering my days on Finnish cruise ships when we certainly drank quite a lot. But anyway, is Anatoly Shred here? Anatoly? Okay, well, you know, we are almost out of time. And I mean, you've heard such richness today. So by the way, I just want to say before I forget that Daria here at the back, who organized this session, has brought together some absolutely fascinating people. So well done, Daria, to you. Thank you. There may be questions that we all have to ask each other, but really we have 5 minutes only. Are there other questions from the floor? Yes, sir, at the back. Yep. Are you going to speak in Russian or English?
Well, I prefer Russian because this will be a question to all Russian-speaking speakers. Gleb Fedorov from the Российская газета, the project Russian headlines. Please tell us, in 5 or 10 years, what things you are discussing now will be a norm for the Russian higher education? Will it be a standard to using webinars of the Vladivostok students in connection with Moscow University? Will be the higher education completely paid? Will it be mobile phones everywhere in the universities? And whether the manuals for the universities will be digital form? Let me answer your question citing my slide. The future is still uneven. So if we talk about the intervention of the mobile devices, And this, first of all, depends on the introduction and involvement of the ideas and images we are discussing now. Because if we talk about the Vladivostok, this is just a question of geography, because this hinders our approaches because of the great distances in our country. But this should not prevent us from introduction and our insistence in introducing these technologies. And I believe that Rostelecom will be able to make the platform available for everybody, because they have the will and the possibilities for this. I will support this by all means, so that the global platforms will come to Russia, will be translated into Russian language, and make their content available for the Russian students. When it happens, when does it happen? Well, maybe we'll talk about it in 5 years, because we'll have 1/5 of our distance. I would like to add slightly. This is a futurology question, and we can dream about it. Well, talking about the startups which begin now, the team from Bauman University made the digitization of one of the laboratories. Their laboratory can be used now 24 hours, including in Kaliningrad or in Vladivostok. It works all the time throughout the territory. And there are many technologies available now which permit not to have the webinar, but to have the online testing in the online form. I know that in some mock platforms there are bot professors. This is not a real professor, but recording, but you can communicate with it in interactive regime. So online technologies which allow to be 24 hours on the web and to have communication and to have obtain the contacts and the knowledge, this will allow to develop. Что-нибудь еще?
Повсеместного проникновения.
Well, besides the interference of the mobile technologies, we will see in the future in the education through the using of mobile technologies, creation of individual educational trajectories according to the particular features of each student. I would like to add that digital books will be used by all students in 10 years. I believe that already most of the students in higher education now use the digital books. And as to the new platforms, I'm quite sure that a number of courses, classes will be replaced by a certain centralized platform in 10 years.
Teachers we were talking about. Interesting. Other questions from the floor? Other questions from the floor? Yeah, I think we just have time for one more. I'm sorry, but, you know, it's been so interesting, this discussion. Go ahead, sir.
Pavlov Artyom, Moscow Physical and Technological Institute. It has been talked a lot about the commercial approaches and commercialization of the approaches in education, but you avoided the question about the open and available materials and databases. As a student, I can say, whatever ridiculous it is, the free platforms, free materials is a very important support for the education. What can you say about the development of these free materials and to avoid extreme commercialization there? I want to say that IT school course of Samsung was developed jointly with the Moscow Physical and Technological Institution and the Bauman University, and we are working together with the professors who participate in these educational platforms and projects. They are now working on the development of practical materials and manuals, and the professors themselves make the introduction and input, and the children themselves create their own texts. And this creates a joint program. And I want to add that XPRIZE is a completely open platform, and this will have an open code, and every developer can download this code and can create its own version. And this will give the way for the new ideology of the new educational process.
I really think I should sum up now because I know we have to go to the inaugural sort of formal opening. But, you know, you could have lasted many hours with our panelists here because there's so much rich knowledge and experience. And I thank everybody for coming. I'll try and focus just for 2 minutes on 3 themes that I've seen that everybody has had. Firstly, the notion of experimentation, exploring, testing. Whether it's from gaming, whether it's from Peter here, from all of our panelists, Leonid and others, the notion of trying and failing, of experimenting, which is the heart of entrepreneurship. And also, I think what you, Alexander, and others would have talked about, the heart of this new approach to education, with an emphasis on gaming, or at least experimentation and exploring, seems to me to be something that has connected a lot of what you've been saying here. The second point is this humanization of technology. Now, I very much liked what Alexander warned about, you know, the sort of amusing word you talked about, the zombification. With all of our enthusiasm and excitement around technology, we have to beware of the sense of isolation, something that Kelsey said about how you brought together people in an online world, connecting, the humanization, and making sure that you know, we have a sense of community. And then that really leads me to the third and last point here, which is around the engagement that these platforms can bring. Obviously, in the case of, say, people with disabilities have to stay at home, as Sergei mentioned, this connectivity that technology brings is vitally important. But throughout all of us, communities, the internationalization of education, what you were saying, Leonid and others, I think is what technology brings us. And this story-dwelling notion that Alexander emphasized, the idea that you take the landscape, you make it your own, you enter into it, the most fascinating ideas that we can take forward. I think, Natalia, you and others obviously emphasized that, you know, there's a lot. How are we going to fund all of this? Question from the audience about what is open access, what is commercial. Obviously, in some respects, we're right at the beginning. But I would say that what's really exciting here is that you've heard superb programs from our Russian colleagues, you know, whether it's from investment from Natalia, from Samsung, from Rostelecom and others, from our American colleagues, and from our Finnish colleagues. Of course, Finland is always a pioneer in this area, but it does show, if you like, that there really is a global approach to global online education. And I would say that as we think about continuing education and as we take it forward, there are some fascinating themes we've learned together today. And well done, Daria, in bringing all this together. And well done, by the way, to our interpreters, who I think have done a superb job. And I would encourage all of you here to interact with all of our people here on the panel, take their cards, or if we don't do cards in these technological days, keep in touch with them and get their contacts. So before I ask you to give them an applause at the end, I just have one technical thing to say, which is, Daria, you asked me to say that the plenary session follows, which is the Emerging Global Innovation Map. It'll be in 1-1. There seems to be a little bit of a sort of split between the red badges that go to 1-1 and the blue badges that go to the lounge zones to watch the video, as far as I've understood that. So, spasibo bolshoye, thank you very much, share, and applause to our panelists, please.